What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is Enemy. This film was first requested to me by Morex U on my Under the Skin review that I released back on the 6th of July. Enemy is a 2013 psychological thriller mystery film that was directed by Denis Villeneuve and is a loose adaptation of Jose Saramago's 2002 novel entitled The Double. While Enemy primarily follows Jake Gyllenhaal's character Adam Bell, a somewhat reserved college history professor living in Toronto, Canada. Well, one day Adam decides to watch a movie entitled When There's a Will, There's a Way, and he spots a man who looks exactly like him in basically every single way. Curious about this man's identity, Adam does some research and eventually identifies the man as an actor by the name of Daniel St. Clair, real name Anthony Clair. Adam decides that he has to know the truth about where this man comes from and whether they're related or not, so he attempts to reach out to Anthony and let him know that he wants to meet up. Well, the two pretty much 100% lookalikes yet polar opposites in personality meet up, and eventually things start getting pretty wacky. The rest of the film is spent exploring the lives of Adam and Anthony as the two deal with relationship issues and commitment, while also dealing with the odd and very tense interactions with one another that hint at something bigger at play. Okay, so I gotta tell you guys, I really enjoyed this film because it's thought-provoking. Now, this is a psychological thriller mystery type film, and while there is some suspenseful stuff present, there's not much that's actually scary about it. Where this film particularly succeeds is in its discussion and commentary on broad intellectual topics. This obviously isn't going to be for everyone, because some people just want to watch a movie and enjoy it for the entertainment value. And while most mystery films do require a little bit more effort from you as a viewer in terms of applying significant thought to comprehend the events that are unfolding on screen, this film takes that a step further. Because there's a lot of things that don't necessarily add up if you're taking them at 100% face value, and your job as the viewer is to sort of piece this whole story together and decide what you think is actually going on here. By the end of the film, you don't really get any concrete answers as to what actually is going on between these two lookalikes. You only get a combination of all the build-up and the subtle clues that have been sprinkled along the way, and then you as the viewer have to decide for yourself what's really going on here. So like I said, this type of movie, and more specifically this type of resolution or lack thereof, is not going to be for everyone. I can't necessarily tell you the broad intellectual topics that are being discussed in this film, because if I did, I think it would spoil the movie for you in certain ways. But I'll just say that things are a lot more complicated than what they seem. Now, one knock I have on this movie is that it's not always incredibly entertaining. At times, it's more insightful than entertaining. There are several elements at play in this mystery story, but at times things feel a bit too repetitive. And whether that was deliberate or not, this doesn't always translate to quality entertainment. The mystery of the entire situation is very intriguing and obviously mysterious, but sometimes the film decides to throw aside those two for intellectual and artistic instead, and depending upon your taste, that may bug you. At times I had a problem with this because it seemed like the filmmaker's attempts at intellectual commentary got in the way of the story itself. Okay, so let's transition to the acting. There's essentially four key characters in this movie. There's Adam, the history teacher, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, Anthony, the actor, also played by Jake Gyllenhaal, Helen, Anthony's pregnant wife, played by Sarah Gadon, and Mary, played by Melanie Laurent, who's Adam's girlfriend of sorts. Let's start with Jake Gyllenhaal because he's the lead actor or actors in this movie. Once again, Jake Gyllenhaal showed why he belongs in the company of the elite male leads, because he showed off some amazing versatility in this film. It reminded me in some ways of Tom Hardy's performance in Legend, in that both characters had very separate and clearly identifiable personalities that you could easily distinguish from one another. No matter what the scene was, you could easily tell which one was Adam and which one was Anthony, because Jake Gyllenhaal did such an amazing job separating the two characters and making sure there was very little, if any, overlap between them. He seems to be the best part of every movie he does, because no matter who the character is or what the situation is, he manages to deliver a compelling performance regardless. I think the filmmakers seem to have a pretty clear idea as to who should play these two characters, because these are not roles that are easily pulled off, especially so flawlessly, and Jake Gyllenhaal completely embodied these characters and their personalities. He displayed some very complex emotions on screen in ways that had me incredibly invested in both of his characters. His performances alone heightened my investment in this story. I also thought the two women in this film were really awesome as well. I like them both a lot because they're very different from one another, and that coincides perfectly with the differences between Adam and Anthony. The film seems to imply that Adam and Mary are friends with benefits of sorts, and this is indicative of Adam's more non-committal and introversive nature. It's implied that Helen is a much more stable and responsible woman than Mary, and she's indicative of Anthony's responsibilities and commitments. Sarah Gadon as Helen definitely gets more screen time, and her character is far more developed than Melanie Laurent's, but I thought they both had a strong presence and added a lot to this story's mystery and intrigue and emotional impact. Two other elements of this film that I loved were the music and the cinematography. Now, Morex U obviously wasn't kidding when he said, "I'd like Enemy if I liked Under the Skin," and that's true, but it's particularly obvious in the score. The music in this film is very, very similar to the music in Under the Skin, and that's a great compliment. The music does an incredible job of setting the tone for each scene, and it does so in a way that further enhances the mystery aspects of this story. I can't show you any samples of this soundtrack because I like my channel and don't want any copyright strikes, but if you're into eerie music, then the Enemy soundtrack is definitely for you. It's very dark and twisted sounding, and it enhanced that feeling of uneasiness very nicely. In terms of the cinematography, I thought this was one of the better shot and edited films I reviewed this year. Everything is intentionally graded with this yellowish color that once again enhances the mystery and intrigue of the story, but this time visually. There's a reason the filmmakers do this, and once you figure out why, you'll love it all the more. There's a ton of odd shots thrown into this movie that look great, but they are slightly confusing at first until you get the explanation. So when you don't understand a shot or a scene at first, don't get frustrated and turn off the movie or anything. Like any mystery film, the key details slowly begin to reveal themselves, and eventually most things will begin to make sense. Not everything though. Definitely not everything. The ending of this film is awesomely ambiguous, and depending upon who you ask, some people will hate it and some will love it. I personally loved it. For one, it's scary, and two, it leaves things open to interpretation and discussion, which is nice to get from an ending every now and then. There isn't a feeling of finality to this story, and I didn't mind it in this specific case because the film raised a lot of questions that stimulated my mind, which I liked. Like I said, this is a movie where your brain has to be on in order to enjoy it, because nothing's going to be spoon-fed to you. You have to figure out what's going on in this scary situation and why all the characters are reacting to things in the manner they are. So overall, I really enjoyed Enemy. I thought it had an intriguing and thought-provoking story, awesome acting, great cinematography and music, and a scary and ambiguous ending. The only knock I have on this film is that it does have some boring and repetitive stretches of time. Regardless, I'm going to give this film a 9 out of 10 and recommend that you watch this one wherever you can if you're looking for a mysterious, artistic, and thought-provoking movie. So did you guys see Enemy yet? What did you think of it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if not, let me know whether you'd be interested in watching this film or not. And as always, if you like this video, click that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for much more content like this. That's all for now though. This is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next review.